Nearly 6 years ago, in the immediate aftermath of September 11th, the Department of Justice told us that they needed significantly enhanced authority while promising the members of this committee in no uncertain terms that these new tools would be carefully and appropriately used. 2 years ago, when the Patriot Act was reauthorized, they promised us there was not a single instance in which the law had been abused. Now, to underscore the importance of the reasons that we're holding this hearing, many of us remember the times in the past when the power of our government has been abused. In one war led to the suspension of habeas corpus. Another war, the notorious Palmer raids. In World War II, the internment of Japanese Americans. In the Vietnam War, the secret spying and enemy list. In my view, we are now in a period where we risk a continuation of these deplorable acts and affect genuine harm to the Constitution and the rule of law. 1 week ago, the Inspector General told us that the exact opposite was true of the promise that had been made, that there was not a single instance when the Patriot Act was being reauthorized that the law had been abused. One tool in particular, the national security letters, essentially secret subpoenas issued without any court review, was used repeatedly to invade the privacy of law-abiding Americans outside the law and proper legal process. This was a serious breach of trust. The department had converted this tool into a handy shortcut to illegally gather vast amounts of private information while at the same time significantly underreporting its activities to Congress. We learned that the number of national security letter requests had increased from 8,500 in the year 2000 to in excess of 143,000 from the 3-year period between 2003 and 2005. The Department of Justice consistently provided inaccurate information to Congress concerning the national security letters, failing to identify at least 4,600 security letter requests to us. Security letters were routinely issued without proper authorization and outside statutory and regulatory requirements. The Inspector General found that more than 60% of the investigatory files they looked at included one or more violations of F.B.I. policy. But worse, the Inspector General found even more widespread abuses concerning the so-called exigent letters. That is, emergency requests for telephone and other data. An exigent letter, as opposed to a national security letter, is meant to obtain information in an extreme emergency like a kidnapping, when the Bureau has already sought subpoenas for the requested information. But the FBI issued these letters in non-emergencies as a means to bypass the requirements of the national security letter procedure. And so, as if it wasn't troubling enough, in many instances, the Bureau attempted to issue after-the-fact national security letters to cover their tracks on their use of exigent letters. The Inspector General specifically found that the exigent letters were ordinarily issued when there was no emergency present, and very often when there was not even a pending investigation. More often than not, the letters were issued based on promises that subpoenas were in the process of being issued when that was not the case, and even though some subpoenas were never issued at all. The Federal Bureau of Investigation made numerous factual misstatements in the letters, which were frequently issued in violation of the statute, as well as the Attorney General and F.B.I. guidelines. The record keeping was so poor that it was impossible for the IG to document how and why all these problems occurs. And what disturbs me most is that the abuse and misuse of these security letters is not an isolated instance. It appears to be a part of a pattern which the Department of Justice has violated not only our trust, but the very laws which they are charged with enforcing. And so I hope from the approval of the notorious torture memos to warrantless and illegal surveillance to wrongful smearing of able U.S. attorneys, this Department of Justice has squandered its reputation for independence and integrity. The Attorney General needs to understand that with power comes responsibility, and with authority must come accountability.